Welcome to day 286 of our Deso journey. I'm Ed Krasenstein here with my twin brother, Brian. And remember, these videos are being sponsored by The Social World. How's it going, Brian?
Good, good. Yeah. Tell us about the social world.
Yeah, so every day we have a little bit of new news about them. It seems like they're teaming with GDS and GDS virtual galleries. I had a chance to speak with Ado today a little bit. You'll notice if you go to the social world, there's now a link to GD virtual galleries on the sidebar. And if you click on that, it takes you to an example gallery by French connectors that features French connectors art. And this is a project that they're working on. We're going to get some more information in the days to come, but it's a really cool collaboration, it appears, between the social world and GDS. And I also want to say that the social world's now verifying a whole bunch of users, and they have a system that they're using, which is really quite brilliant. Thanks to Rand here. He provided some help with this to Ado, but they're speeding up the verification process, and they're now verifying approximately 25 or so people every day, every weekday. And the way it's working is they've assigned ranks to users, and in 6 categories. Number 1, days on Deso. Number 2, posts. 3, followers. 4, likes. 5, diamonds, and 6, coin holders. And they're ranking it, they're listing the top 200 in each of these categories, and then take anybody who exists in the top 200 in 4 or more of these 6 categories are going to be verified on the Social World node. So they had this process, and they're doing about 25 a day. So I think that's awesome. It's a great idea.
Love what they're doing. It seems like they're progressing at the speed of light, and Ada is doing an amazing job.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to verify users outside of the normal verification process on Deso, using like basically an algorithm to do it. But let's move on. Smart services. There's a huge blog post posted by Deso yesterday covering smart services. And I know you, Brian, you had a chance to really read over and examine it, and you create an outline and post an outline of this. You want to tell us a little bit about what smart services are and what they're going to encompass?
Yeah, so like you said, Nader posted a blog post on the deso.org blog. He also held an hour-long Twitter Spaces where he discussed smart services, what his vision is for smart services on Deso, as well as other blockchains. And then he allowed people with contrarian points of view to kind of come in and kind of pick his idea apart and give feedback and whatnot. But smart services, in essence, they're like smart contracts. But whereas smart contracts are decentralized and built on the blockchain using Rust and Solidity, which are 2 programming languages used to build smart contracts on blockchains, smart services stray from that in that they are basically built by web developers with traditional web code, whether it's Java or whatever else a web developer's using. And these developers can build any app and then link it up to a blockchain. The difference is that a smart service is centralized because the developers themselves are centralizing it. It can reside on a website. The app or the service can reside on a website. So that's actually centralized. Now there's 2 different schools of thoughts and points of view. Nader says, and I tend to agree with most of what he says, is that smart contracts are really gas constrained. And there's only a handful of developers. And when I say a handful, I'm guessing a few hundred, maybe a 1,000 or so developers who are really, really, really well-versed in Rust and Solidity, which you need to create smart contracts. Whereas with smart services, pretty much the whole pool of all the web developers around the world, which is millions, could theoretically build a smart service and not have to worry about gas, of course. Gas is quite a limiting factor because when a developer is building on Rust or Solidity, a smart contract, they have to worry about how much space is being used and how how they had to minimize the amount of data that's going to be stored, because there is these gas fees, and on Ethereum they're incredibly expensive. On Solana, not so much, but it still adds up. And a smart contract can be very costly to run. Nader pointed out the trade-offs between, I guess, decentralized smart contracts and centralized smart services, and he kind of said they were kind of similar to what Brian Armstrong had to decide when he launched Coinbase back like 7 or 8 years ago. And that was, do we centralize it and have control and are able to kind of develop it the way we want and in a centralized way, or do we decentralize it? And he actually he split up with his partner because of this in the business, because he wanted centralized and they wanted decentralized. And ultimately, you know how Coinbase worked out. It's almost $100 billion company. They are obviously one of the highest valued crypto companies out there. I think they probably are the highest valued cryptocurrency out there, not currency, company out there. So I think, like, at the time, it might not have seemed like a good idea for Brian Armstrong to centralize things, but in the long run, it definitely was. And I've spoken to a lot of developers since yesterday, since this blog post was put out, and since we got to hear Nader speak. And there's a handful of them that aren't liking it. They don't like the centralization of it all. But Nader points out that you really only need the blockchain for assets and content, like storing assets and content on the blockchain. That's what's important, like content as in posts, as in social media profiles, all that, and then assets as in the currency. If you're dealing with computation, which is actually the smart services or smart contracts, which would be like lending, trading, staking, all of that, you can move it entirely off chain and it doesn't really impact things too much. I mean, there are a few downfalls, I guess, but ultimately by moving it off chain, you're clearing up space, you're making them free, and it's not really too much different than the argument of, oh, well, a node, NFTs, that's centralized. Our node that we're running is centralized. And I thank Martin Van Halen for kind of pointing this out. Nodes are centralized. So you don't hear complaints about, oh, these nodes are all centralized. It's not really any different in moving these computational algorithms off of the blockchain and centralizing them, because all of the data, all of the content and the assets are still decentralized on the blockchain. I know they're working on an app to roll out with smart services. That is, do you remember what it's called, Ed?
Yeah, Mega Swapper. So during Twitter Spaces last night, of course, at the Twitter Spaces, there was Nader, there was Alex Velitis, and others who are on stage talking. And Nader just dropped this bomb that Mega Swapper is going to be one of the first smart services that Deso releases. And Mega Swapper is going to be a way for you to exchange Ethereum for Deso, for Solana, for other cryptocurrencies. And it's going to use an API and it's just going to let you swap. So it's kind of like an exchange service that's going to be, it's going to be centralized, but decentralized.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on a few more points that Nader made. Smart services are going to allow for easy interchain communication. So you're going to be able to build these smart services across chains, whereas with smart contracts, it's not really possible, because the contract resides on a particular chain. If you build a smart service like Mega Swapper, you can quickly and easily swap between cryptos, and that's just one example. And Nader also pointed out, he asked the question, like what do you think? Who do you think is going to create the killer Web 3.0 application? A handful of Rust and Solidity developers building on chain, or one of the millions of web developers that are already building applications off chain who can come and build these applications and these services between the different cryptocurrencies? So smart services, which are gasless and you don't have to worry about the constraints of gas optimization, it is much more likely that one of these millions of developers will build this killer app that will take things forward rather than the handful of Rust and Solidity developers who are constrained. So I think that there's definitely some people that are concerned about heading in that direction. I totally hear you. I totally understand where you're coming from, especially people that are really into crypto and they understand and believe that everything needs to be decentralized, because decentralization is what's going to keep control out of the hands of corporations and all that. But when you just take the computational algorithms out and centralize those, I don't see it harming things to an extent that would make it less worthwhile than everything that it will achieve. So ultimately, I like the idea of smart services, but I can understand where others are coming from if they are criticizing it.
Here's the deal. If you don't like them, you don't have to use them. You know, like it opens up this huge box of possibilities. Well, it doesn't really close you off from anything. So, you know, if you don't like the idea of smart services, don't use them. You know, you can always go to Ethereum and use smart contracts if that's what you want. So I think it's something new. Why recreate the wheel when you can, you know, add fancy colors to it? Maybe that's a bad analogy.
And like I said, you have the option. You don't have to use any smart service if you don't want to. And there will be smart contracts still on these other chains, as well as probably Deso. When you have DRC20 tokens released, there's going to be the ability to create smart contracts with when dealing with assets. So I think it's a move in the right direction. It is a major change to like blockchain thinking, but ultimately I think it will end up being more like Coinbase, in that when it started, it was something that was criticized and not really understood why it's going that way, but ultimately it works out. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see if it's a paradigm shift or if it's, you know, just fizzles out. We'll have to wait and see. So also yesterday, so after the Twitter Spaces, which took place at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, an hour after that, or basically right as that was ending, the first community event was scheduled, and it was supposed to take place on Chime In, but unfortunately, so many people were trying to access Chime In, it crashed Chime In. So Yazin's working on fixing some of those issues. He's working on expanding the rooms because the rooms could only hold 50 people at a time. So the community event actually ended up taking place on the Deso Foundation Discord. And there are, I don't know how many people, but well over 100 people there at some of the time. And we had Fast Freddy, we had Malsify, who's Ed's Malsified, Alex Velatis, Megan Vita, Matreshka was there. Natter didn't have it. Natter wasn't able to make it. I think Fast Freddy said that he had an interview with some media or something at that time. So he didn't make it, but it was a great event. It was a great opportunity to kind of just talk with some of the core team, learn about each other, share some of our experiences, what got us onto Deso, talk about smart services, talk about NFTs, we talked about a lot of stuff. And I think it was really entertaining and it was a great conversation.
Yeah, like what stood out to me from that was how awesome the community was. There were a lot of people in that Discord. What else stood out to me was Ed Malsified. He gave a lot of great insight, kind of talked about what they're working on and what his background was and how he found Deso. And it was like a breath of fresh air. Like he's a super smart guy, well spoken. And it seems like he's a really good addition to the core team.
Yeah, we heard a little bit more about the upcoming birthday party in March in LA. No details yet, but it's coming, and I think everybody's excited about that. Natter's probably going to be there. It sounds like. I asked if Maybeam would be there, and they didn't. They kind of made everybody take a pause. So maybe may or may not be there. Maybe she'll be there, but she won't be. Maybe she'll be incognito, or perhaps, you know, not letting people know she's Maybeam. I don't know. It should be fun. But we can move on. Reed on the platform yesterday created a contest where he's giving away 6 diamonds, and he said maybe 7 diamonds. And I know D Social World reached out to Reed to say, listen, if you want to give 7 diamonds, you can now do it on our node. 6 or 7 diamonds, you have to create the best slogan for a social token deck for creators. So I assume that's a pitch deck, and it has to correlate to Deso and it can mention diamonds, minting, creator coins, tokens, capacity of protocol, etc. And it has to resonate with everyone. So you can do that. Just go to Reed's profile, give him your slogan, and you might win 6, you might win 7 diamonds for doing so. But definitely check that out.
Yeah, and that's about $500 or $5,000, depending on whether it's 6 or 7. And Reed's been with community since the start. He's great. He's always pushing things forward. He's super smart. He was a clown, of course, giving away a bunch of diamonds in the beginning of this journey. Yeah, check it out. Check out his profile.
Yesterday, Raj, I guess, unofficially returned this morning, and he's bought several OG coins. He's bought a bunch of Deso from Gringot, and his profile now says, quote unquote, slowly coming back into the Deso ecosystem, more so focused on the social aspects here. No other place like Deso. This place is special. And we agree, it's special. And Raj was missed for the short time he was gone. He's one of the original OGs. Glad to have him back.
Yeah, Raj is another asset to the community. He has a great background in web development, and he knows how to kind of react to communities. So I'm happy that he's not leaving. I had a feeling he'd be back and be posting a lot. He has a lot of great ideas. So I definitely welcome him back. Welcome back, Raj. And I know you didn't really leave, but welcome. I know you're going to stick around for a while now. I'm sure we'll see you at another meetup, probably in LA.
Yeah. And on Clubhouse today at 11 p.m. Eastern time, DOZ and Rhubarb are holding a room entitled Smart Services Are Greater Than Smart Contracts. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes into that room. Or do we see some Bitcoin people, Ethereum people come into that room to learn about smart services? Brian and I will probably try and be there as well.
I'm sorry, what time did you say that was?
That's 11 a.m. Eastern time. Maybe I said p.m., but it was at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And at 1 p.m. Eastern time on Clubhouse, Deso Music NFT closing party by St. Lanes. St. Lanes is an awesome artist. I had a chance to listen to him speak on Clubhouse a few days ago. He's having his closing party for his NFTs, and some of the people on hand there will be Rhubarb, Miss Katie Ann, Sky Black Tunes, French Connector, Wildography, and Saving the Survivors. So that should be an exciting room as well for the drop, I guess for the closing of the drop. And also I want to mention, I read this morning that Supernovas is having a Discord chat on Friday. I believe it's at 7 p.m. Eastern time on their Discord. So
much stuff going on. It's hard to keep track of it all.
Definitely lots of stuff going on. And I think, well, that's all we have for today. So we'll talk to you tomorrow, and have a great day, everyone.